Students, today we will learn about an interesting story, Ranga's Marriage, written by Masti Venkatesha Iyengar. Ranga's Marriage is a story set in a small village of Mysore state, Hosahalli, where matchmaking was the traditional way of fixing a marriage. Ranga's marriage is a conflict between traditional thought and modern thought. The story will convey an important message under the grab of how Ranga got married. Ranga's marriage is not all about a marriage of a boy to a girl. The story is trying to communicate a message to the readers. The story holds a mirror to the society in villages a long time back, a time when people did not know English. According to the author, the English is the priceless commodity, and the English language was not so widespread in villages. It also stretches on how astrologers held a place of admiration in society. Their words, the words of the astrologers, had unquestionable acceptance. In the story, the author also talks on the theme of marriage in society. He depicts the role of neighbors and well-wishers had to play in arranged marriages. The story is set up in a time frame which was some 100 years ago from now, so the ways and custom and practices in the society was very different from what we do today, especially in terms of arranging marriages. At that time, arranged marriages were the trend, but now traditions have changed. People thinking has also transformed. The biggest reason behind this transformation is the education system of today. It has changed people's view and make them mature enough to take intelligent decisions. Before going to the introduction of the story Ranga's Marriage, let us learn something about the author Masti Venkatesha Iyengar. He was a well-known writer in Kannada language. He was born on 6 June 1891 and died on 6 June 1986. He was the fourth among Kannada writers to be honored with the Gyanpith Award, the highest literary honor conferred in India for his novel Chikkavira Rajendra. He is the most renowned for his short stories. He published his first work, Rangana Maduve, written in 1910, meaning Marriage of Ranga, and his last work was Matagara Ramana, written in 1985. For his contribution to Kannada literature, he was given the epithet Masti Kannada Asti, meaning Masti is Kannada's treasure. He wrote under the pen name Srinivasa. Under the pen name of Srinivasa, Masti's first notable work was his collection of short stories called Kelavu Sanna Kattagalu. Masti Venkatesha Iyengar died on 6 June 1986 at the age of 95. The story Ranga's Marriage dates back the early days of British rule when life in villages was slow and child marriage was a common practice. As we all know, students, the world today was very different. With the advent of modern technology, life has become very fast compared to those days. The story has a great fund of humor, ridicule and sarcasm brought about by the author's takes on both Indian and English value system. The plot is set in the village of Hosahalli. It is the humorous way of narration that lends it a unique color of a light-hearted attitude towards life that makes it an enjoyable experience. The story is a first-person narrative, and a major portion of the story is in flashback. The speaker directly addresses the reader. The narrator is a neighbor of the protagonist Ranga. He introduces the story with a difference by first giving a detailed description of their village Hosahali. He asks the reader if he or she has ever heard of the village. He replies to the question himself, for the village was not located in any of the maps, for the English Sahibs and the ones in our country forget to put it there. Then he introduces Ranga, the protagonist, in a time 10 years ago. Ranga was village accountant's son, came back to the village after completing his studies in the city of Bangalore. Impressed by his values, the narrator tries to play a matchmaker and get him married to Ratna. There are 4 main characters in the story. First, Shama, the narrator who is narrating the story, Ranga, who was the protagonist of the story, Ratna, who is a sweet girl of 11, Shastri, who is the village astrologer and plays a vital role in arranging Ranga's marriage with Ratna. Shama, the narrator, gives us an insider's view into the lives of people whom he talks about in his narrative. The story is a light satire that makes fun of many things. The title of the story is quite appropriate and suggestive. The whole story revolves around the marriage of Ranga. Ranga's marriage is a conflict between traditional and modern thought, as I have told you earlier. The conflict occurs when Ranga, against his rationality, falls in love with Ratna, an 11-year-old girl, and finally gets married to her.